Good morning. How are you diddling? Are we live everywhere? We are indeed. How are you doing? Excellent. Me too. Thank you very much for asking. Welcome to a slightly later than usual episode of Dazed, Confused, and Generally Buggered, just after 12 o'clock on, what day is it? It's Thursday, isn't it? The little man, he's fast asleep right now, but yeah, it took him a while to settle down. He slept really well last night, basically, so it meant that today he goes to sleep a bit later. Anyway, we are here this morning. Welcome to you if you've just joined us. Hello to Kirsten. Hello to the guys from the NM Trust. Hello to you as well if you're watching on any of the other platforms that we're broadcasting on. This morning, we're here, as always, to talk to you about social media, about video, answer your questions as well, as many of them as we possibly can do, and talk about a specific subject. Today's specific subject is, can you make my video go viral? We'll talk about that one in just a minute. It's a question, as a video company, we get asked quite a lot. So who am I? I am Perception Studios. I'm Sam Scholes. This is my company right here. We're an award-winning visual marketing agency, and we help brands and businesses create video, animated, aerial photography content, specifically for their social media to help them stand out beyond the rest of the competition. However, a few years ago, it became quite obvious to me that not every brand, not every business had the marketing budget necessarily to have things created specifically for their social media. But what could they do themselves for social media for free? Because social media is such a huge tool. And if you're not using it for your brand or for your business right now, you really are missing out, especially in the current climate. So what could you create that you could do for free yourself using one of these things, using your mobile phone? Right now, this is streaming live on Instagram. So that's just one thing you could do with it. But what else could you do with your mobile phone that's really simple to do and create loads of content, which is why I came up with How to 9 Times Your Social Media, a simple process where you create one piece of content and make that work harder for you. And you do that every single week until you get into a process of making content on a regular basis. That's the idea. So when this all kicked off, decided to start going live, trying to give hints and tips and help every single day, answering your questions. And that's why right now we are currently live on Instagram. We're on Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, in a couple of groups as well. Not quite on LinkedIn yet. We're still working on that one. Not really sure what's going on there, but we'll get there eventually. But yeah, we're live as many places as we possibly can do this morning. So if you've got any questions, chuck them into the comments on whatever stream you're on. I'll do my best to answer as many of them as we can do. Hello to Mr. Alfie Brown, who's a dog. So that's really cool that he's watching. Also, Soap from the Heart and the Country Garden Flowers Company as well. So thank you very much for joining us. Right, okay. Can you make my video go viral? The question I get asked a fair bit. Okay, the answer to this simply is no. You cannot make a viral piece of content. It doesn't work that way. You can do different things to try and help a piece of content go viral. And if you are lucky enough to be classed as what you would call an influencer and you're creating content, then there's a good chance your content's going to go viral anyway. And then it could go mega viral by the fact that you've created something really tangible for people to get their teeth into, which we're going to come across in just a second. So yes, if you're an influencer, fine, you could be making viral content all the time. It also depends on what you consider to be viral in your industry. So back in the day, YouTube actually considered any video that gained more than 200 views in the first 24 hours to be considered as viral. That's when they would give you that opportunity to actually monetize that piece of content. Because back in the day, you couldn't monetize every single piece of content. So do you consider a piece of content with 200 views to be a viral piece of content? Because most people wouldn't. But it depends really on what industry you're working in. If you are, for example, let's take up the idea of an accountant again, which I use on a regular basis. If you get a piece of content that gets 200 views pretty quickly, that's quite good because it's not necessarily a subject matter you would expect a lot of people to generally be diving in to go and watch all the time. Maybe during tax season, or maybe like right now when people aren't sure exactly what is going on with furlough or whether they can claim governmental help on being self-employed or what's a bounce back loan, all those kind of things. But generally, that content isn't necessarily going to get watched. So actually getting that many views is really good. However, if you are, I don't know, for example, a gardener and you're giving hints and tips about gardening, well, right now, lots of people will be giving hints and tips about gardening because we're in the height of like a mini heat wave in the UK, and also lots of people are doing that at the moment because they're on furlough. They don't know what to do with the time. They're doing a lot of DIY, a lot of gardening, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of content can perform really, really well, help a brand, help a business. But 200 views might not necessarily be considered viral in that environment. So you need to understand how you consider a viral piece of content to be, first of all, in your industry. So you've got to start asking yourself some questions. But when it comes to actually creating the content, there's a lot of really quite simple things you can do to try and help yourself. Trust me, there is no way of understanding how the algorithm is going to push you out and more people are going to see you. You never know. You could create the most banal crap piece of content and it could become the biggest viral sensation ever. This piece of content I'm creating right now, for God knows what reason, could effectively get millions of views, and I would not understand why that has happened other than I've got to the point quickly, I've answered some questions and given a lot of value. But other than that, there's no real reason for this to actually go viral, but it could do. You just never know. So don't expect anything to go viral. Just expect it to perform as best as you possibly can, and then you'll be happy. Don't have huge expectations. Just get it to perform in the first place, especially if it's a piece of paid for content that you're getting paid to create or paying somebody to create for you. Okay, so can you make me go viral? First things first. Any video that you know that's gone viral, like the shaving guy stuff. There was a great advert a few years ago for, I think it was an internet company, done on the Super Bowl, and there was a model, and effectively like this guy who was meant to be a computer nerd sat next to each other, and they spent the time kissing. There's all sorts of different content that's gone viral that you will have seen go viral. But why did it go viral? Why did people get tied into that straight away? Well, the first thing is the adverts were very memorable. Like the shaving guys one, really funny, comedic. That one, there was a nerdy guy and a really hot woman kissing. Why would that have happened? You'd see that in the advert, all that kind of stuff. But you've got to try and get people's attention in the first 5 seconds. That's why when you go onto things like YouTube and Vimeo, those platforms actually give you an opportunity to skip the advert within the first 5 seconds. So if you've not got somebody's attention on your piece of content within the first 5 seconds on a video, then there is a very high chance that unless they're really invested into your content, maybe you are an influencer and they're really invested into what you do, there's a very good chance they're going to click off it and go somewhere else. So that first 5 seconds, very important, especially if you're creating an advert or anything like that. So really, you've got to hit them hard and you've got to hit them quick. How are you going to get them invested into that piece of content like that, essentially? Because 5 seconds will go very, very quickly. So what you're going to do that at the start of your piece of content, this is where getting a creative in to help you is very important, because not necessarily will you think of a way of doing that, but maybe a creative agency would do. I'm not saying you have to, but it's a pretty good idea to start thinking about this if you're going to create content that you want to go viral. The next thing is to be different. A lot of these adverts now are copied upon. So the shaving advert, for example, it was copied upon by lots of other industries, to the point where there was a guy called Russell, I can't remember his surname, and he creates ClickFunnels. Basically funnel mechanics, funnel marketing, getting people drawn into a funnel so that you can get more customers through lead marketing, all that kind of stuff. They created an advert and it was an absolute flop. Cost them thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pounds to make it, and it did nothing. Absolutely nothing. I think it's still currently sat on around about 7,000 views. Now, when you've spent the amount of money that they've spent on it, 7,000 views is chronic. And the reason for that is that everybody had seen it all done before. Everybody knew the kind of advert that was coming. Everybody knew the kind of humor that was going to hit them. And so they just switched off. They weren't that bothered. You've got to be different. You've got to stand out from the rest of the crowd. So definitely try and write something that is going to be different to something you've ever seen before, or potentially at least take elements of different things rather than copying one thing completely. The next one is the difficult one for a lot of brands, a lot of businesses, especially smaller brands and businesses at the moment. Try and be high quality. Now, a high quality production doesn't necessarily mean you have to get somebody in with great cameras to come and film it. You could still do it on your mobile phone. But is that going to look as good as getting somebody in, a business in, a brand in, who know what they're doing, who understand creative, who understand social content, all that kind of stuff? It's important to get this right. If you're going to put money behind this, and then you definitely need to put some sort of production value in there, be it in the filming process, so you get somebody in to help you with the filming, or potentially you can do all the filming yourself, but then maybe get somebody in to actually help with the editing of the content, which might be the better opportunity for you, the more cost-effective way of doing it at the moment. Especially when we're in a situation where social distancing has to take place. I'm going to be filming on a site next week, and pretty much, I think they've got like 4 or 5 people on site, and I won't be going near anybody whatsoever. There's all sorts of rules in place, all sorts of health and safety, and there generally is on this site anyway, but it's even more heightened because of the current situation. So if you can do any filming yourself, then get it done. But if not, make sure you put safety measures in place. But yeah, high production value can help. It's not necessarily going to make it go viral, but it really can help getting a creative agency involved to help you make that piece of content look as good as it possibly can do for the budget you necessarily have. So don't expect to have to still spend thousands of pounds like Russell Brunson did. You could still spend hundreds, but just remember that they're going to create something better than you potentially could do using your mobile phone, unless that's your thing. The next one is be practical in your content. The reason some influencers go viral, even with their day-to-day content, isn't because they're making something beautiful. It isn't because people are necessarily invested into them, but they still are. It's because they're giving value. That value that I talk about all the time, you can still put that into your advertising content. You can still put that into that piece of content that you're going to try and make go viral by giving value. For example, Casey Neistat, I don't know if you know him, he's a creator, used to live in New York, now lives in Los Angeles. He's created loads of great pieces of content for lots of different brands over the year. And he didn't create this one for a brand specifically. He was on a flight with Qatar Airlines and they upgraded him to first class. Now, this was just after the Airbus A380 had come out. Everybody was wondering what first class was like, whether it was worth it. It's like an $18,000 seat because you get a shower and all sorts of stuff. So what did Casey do? From Dubai to wherever he was flying, I think he was flying to New York, he filmed the whole process, filmed himself getting on the flight, the kind of little gift pack he got, taking a shower while he was on the flight, the space that he had to play with, all that kind of stuff, the food. He took a video of it all, and it did, well, at the time, about a year ago, it had done 18.5 million views because it was such an interesting piece of content. People could get invested in that really easily because we all want to know how the other half live. We all want that voyeuristic lifestyle of looking in and seeing what you can get if you've got the money, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people were sharing it. A lot of things clicked at the right time. It was holiday season, so people were looking at that kind of thing. It was a very female-friendly piece of content. So a lot of women were sharing it with their friends and going, oh my God, have you seen this seat? It's just absolutely amazing. They were sharing it with each other. That then meant that newspapers got onto it. They were sharing it with their audiences. And so the growth just became exponential, and it just went absolutely crazy. Now, normally a piece of content for Casey would get about 1.5 million views, still very, very good. But to go to 18 million, there was something different about that piece of content. And it was just the value he was giving in there. So think about the value that you can give in your piece of content. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to hit 18.5 million views, but if your production values are nice and you've got a bit of an audience who will potentially share that piece of content and there's loads of value in there, you never know what's going to happen. So be absolutely practical. Give value for whatever size audience you've got. It doesn't matter, but just give value to them. And then finally, promote the crap out of it. If you're making a piece of content and you want people to see it, tell people it exists. Don't just make it, put it on the internet and expect it to do anything. Now, you could be creating masses of content on a regular basis like I do. I take these pieces of video that I do every single day, edit all the bits and pieces out of it, turn it into podcasts, multiple short videos, all that kind of stuff. Getting more people to watch that kind of stuff is difficult, but if you're creating content that you're like putting a load of effort into once or twice a week, then tell people about it. tell people that your content exists. I still tell people this content exists, but probably not as hard as I should do, because I'm trying to get other messages across as well. And I don't want to muddy the waters. I don't want to become a scattergun marketeer. I want to have my focus on what it is I'm talking about. So today, my focus is on how to make viral videos. Or can you make a video go viral? And all my content across all my channels will be kind of focused on that. And then all the questions that I'm going to answer in a bit will come out of that, and I'll put those to one side and we can upload those on YouTube for people to consume. And they'll find them and it'll either drip feed a good audience or it won't. But I'm not bothered about that. I'll talk about that piece of content. But yeah, promote the crap out of it. If you're making some content, tell people it actually exists. Tell people it's there. Put it out in as many places as you possibly can do. Be proud of it. Don't be scared of the trolls diving in and going, oh my God, what have you done this for? Who gives a shit? You're trying to make this piece of content perform well for the people who will get value from it. So remember, trolls, they're not your audience. You don't need to care about them. You need to care about the people who are your audience. And those are the ones who are potentially going to help your piece of content go viral in the industry that you're working in. Remember, going back to that point one, it's all about what you consider to be viral within your niche market. An accountant isn't necessarily going to have a huge audience watching a piece of content. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. But you can still perform well within your industry. So consider that. And let's have a quick look at what's happening on the comments this morning. Oh, hello to Chris, who was listening to yesterday's show, Print is Dead, Long Live Print, saying the ideas from Adam yesterday were very interesting. Can I recommend that if anyone watching today hasn't seen that, they go back and listen to it? Thank you very much, Chris. You can recommend that people do that. Yesterday's live video was all about print marketing and how you can do something very different with print marketing. So normally I speak to you about social media, about digital marketing, all that kind of stuff, but there's lots of other forms of marketing. So we spoke about print marketing yesterday and got my friend Adam on to have a chat about what you can do differently with print marketing right now to make yourself stand out, but also potentially go viral on social media. So if you want to know more about that, go and have a listen to yesterday's podcast on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen on. Or if you prefer, you can go and watch the video yesterday. It's on YouTube and everything else. All the links are in my pants right now. Go and check out the description box and all the links will be in there. I'll add them on Twitch as soon as we're finished on this live broadcast. So there you go. But anyway, yes, can you make content go viral? Not necessarily, but there are some things you can do to try and help that actually happen. So yeah, don't guarantee yourself that you're going to go viral by doing all those things, but hopefully they may well help a little bit to pushing your content out to a wider audience and potentially going viral in your marketplace. Okay. Questions are open as always. Hello to AJ, who's just joined us, and Jordan as well, and Mark Bretter, the Lifestyle Card, and Jamie Sharp and Dave Wooler as well, who've joined us. Tim Hook, who's joined us on Instagram Live. So thank you very much to you guys. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, don't forget you can say hello, type it in, just say hello, and we can say hello to you on the live streams. Hello to Ed and also to Miles as well, who were tuned in this morning. So yeah, shall we get to the questions? If you've got any questions, stick them into the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Oh, hello to Mark Silk who's over in the Apocalypse bunker at the moment. Excellent. Hope you're staying safe in there and you've got plenty of dehydrated food. Right, okay, question. But there's a few of these which are from anonymous people, so we'll go through those first. And then I've got a really good one this morning from Twitter as well, so we'll go to that one in a minute. First question, how can I tell my story without asking for sympathy? I have an ongoing injury that was impacted my life, but I'm trying to move forward with a new passion. Okay, how can you tell your story without asking for sympathy? Don't ask for sympathy, simple as. Okay, the fact of the matter is, I don't know what your injury is, but whatever it is, people will probably want to know about that. They're going to tie themselves emotionally into your story if you tell them your story. But then don't dwell on it. So I don't know what you're trying to do essentially, but if you're looking to become somebody who creates regular content, for example, and I'm going to latch onto the idea of vlogging, so doing like daily diaries or weekly diary content, then don't just don't get all caught up in the fact that you have this injury. You're going to have to mention it. People are going to have to know about it. And that's just the way it is. You've got this injury, and it's going to be lifelong, and it's going to be ongoing and causing issues. But that doesn't mean you have to dwell on that particular thing. Now, some days may be good, some days may be bad. So you talk about the injury in that way, but you don't have to reach out for sympathy. To be honest, humankind, we will probably give sympathy anyway where it's deserved and not when it's not. So if you don't dwell on it, if you don't push it really hard, if you don't talk about it too much and expect people to be sympathetic, then there's a very good chance that people just will generally let you get on, create your content, and move forward. It shouldn't make any difference to anybody whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you've got one leg or whether you've got burns or whether you've got a learning difficulty or whether you've hurt your back in a car crash, whatever. It shouldn't make any difference to anybody. It doesn't make you who you are. So start telling your story, start letting people know a little bit about what's going on, what's happening. And I think, just don't ask for the sympathy. Don't dwell on the situation. But if you're in a wheelchair, for example, and you can't get into a pub, then you can talk about that. This is something that we come up against every day when we're in wheelchairs and we can't get into certain places because they still haven't necessarily thought about access for people in wheelchairs, even in 2020. That's still something that people are going to find interesting and latch onto. Now, it might niche your audience down a little bit to other wheelchair users, but is that a bad thing? What difference does it make? They're still community. They're still going to be there to talk to you, to answer questions, to ask questions, to get value from your content. So I don't know enough about your story, but I would just say, tell your story, but don't dwell on the downside. Don't dwell on the injury, but make it just part of the content. It's just there, and that's just the way it is. Okay, next one. Actually, this is an interesting one because I was talking about this yesterday, so you must have missed yesterday's broadcast, so definitely go watch yesterday's broadcast as well. I haven't seen a voice actor on the show yet, and I'd love to discuss or hear your strategies you have for voice actors just starting out in today's world. Exactly the same as I said yesterday. Basically, get yourself a show reel together, voice some different styles of audio, whether it be documentary, comedic, voiceover characters, radio adverts, all that kind of stuff. Put together what you're good at, make a show reel out of it, and then send it out to producers, creative agencies, local radio stations in the proviso of, hi there, I'm Dave, and this is my show reel. I hope you don't mind me sending it to you. Would you mind if I sent you my weekly availability list? And they'll say yes or no to that. And then if you're allowed to, you add them onto your mailing list. Brilliant. And then every single week you send them an email just saying when you're available that week to do voiceover sessions for them as a brand or them as a business or them as a radio station. Because then they know you're available, but not only that, you're front of mind every single week. Every Monday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Dave's email arrives in my inbox and I know Dave is available. I've never used Dave yet, but actually he might pop up into mind when a new advert comes in. So just put yourself front of mind. It's a case of that, I'm afraid, and just constantly building your email list and that kind of thing. Going to networking events if you can do that are for other ad creatives, that kind of thing. Going to your general day-to-day business networking is fine, but is that really going to get you any radio work? Is there anybody in there who's going to go, you've got a great voice, I should use you on my next radio advert? Because they're not likely to, because what happens is a business goes to an ad creative agency or they go to a radio station, sales and promotions department, and they say, I want to make an advert. And then they say, no problems. They write the advert and they go, yeah, I love that. And then they give them some examples of voices and they go, yeah, I want to use that one. They don't automatically just go, oh, I met that Dave at a networking event 3 years ago. Maybe I should use him. It just doesn't happen. So make sure that you're networking and speaking to the right people. 100%. Don't spend your time going to all these other networking events. You're probably not going to get the work out of it. Now, if you're creating adverts as well, if you are an ad producer and a voiceover, it's slightly different, but you're not. You're a voiceover. So stick to the voiceover market. Hopefully that helps, but go and listen to yesterday's content and go into it a little bit deeper and go on about it a lot longer than I just have done. Okay, next one. My Zoom calls look crap. How do I improve it? Okay, there's a few ways on this. Right, number one, are you doing it on your phone? In which case, having probably lighting or what have you, but most people do them on the computer. So first things first, potentially your camera. The camera I'm using right now is an HD camera. It's built into the iMac, and it's only 720p, which is why the quality isn't as good as it potentially could be. But it does for what I'm doing, because I'm just giving value. But if you want to go really high quality on your Zoom calls, you could buy a new camera, which you plug in and then put on a tripod, and it sits there and it will film you. And that could be in 1080p, it could be a 4K camera, what have you. So you could do that. There are also other ways of then going really professional. So there are external pieces of software you can use called OBS. And OBS is a piece of software that you install onto your computer. It's completely free, and it will allow you to run a DSLR as a webcam. So then you could put like a prime lens on, you could have a soft background focus, so the aperture is nice and low, you could get the lighting right, it could look absolutely beautiful. So you could do that as well. The other thing on Zoom is that the default setting is actually not in HD. So go to the camera settings on Zoom and make sure it's put it into HD for you. You might have a 1080p camera right now, and it's filming you and shooting you on Zoom in 480, because that's just what it does. So go to Zoom, make sure that it's not done the default as SD, and make sure it's in HD. Basically, that's probably the most simple tip for Zoom. Because I don't know why the default is low quality. It's probably because at the moment a lot of people have been downloading the software, and they're just they're trying to save a bit of bandwidth. Let's face it, everybody's using Zoom right now to do calls and chat to people. So there you go. And if you're looking to record a Zoom, number one, I'm not a big fan of it, because the internet quality where you are could be fine, it could be rubbish, it doesn't matter either way. Zoom can be really flaky, and your audio could be bad, your visual could be bad, your audio and your visual can drop out of sync with each other. So if you're going to do it, record your audio separately, record your video with Zoom, absolutely fine, and then use the audio that you've recorded separately, which is going to be far better, no potential of any glitches in there, and use that and marry the two together in a piece of editing software later on. And if you don't have the skill set to do that, hire a company like mine to do it. But you could learn to do it yourself, trust me. Right, final question, and I like this one, and this should just get us into half an hour. If you've got any other questions, though, no matter what platform you're on, whether you're on Instagram Live, which is right here, or whether you're on any of the other platforms, please do feel free to drop your questions in. Ash from ERA Removal Services Limited, who basically help people move from Spain to the UK and vice versa, but they do shipping and all sorts of stuff. Really cool guy. Met him on one of the Twitter hours that I take part in. And he was asking a question about YouTube. What does impressions click-through rate mean on YouTube? So to put this really simply for you, it means somebody's seen your content. That's an impression. And that's kind of the same on any social media channel. So when people are scrolling through on Facebook, they've got the mobile phone in their hand and they're scrolling through and they see your piece of content, that's an impression. That's an set of eyeballs on your content. That does not mean they've interacted with it. It does not mean they've watched it. It does not mean they've seen it. It just means that it's been there and it's an impression, a potential chance of somebody seeing and clicking through on your content, which brings us to the next part of that, is a click-through. So they've seen it, and then they've clicked through, and they've decided to watch more than 3 or 4 seconds of your piece of content. So it generally works out about 2 seconds, but if you stick to 3 or 4, then it works better. And basically, that's effectively what it is. So they've seen your content. If you go to YouTube right now, you search for anything, a bunch of thumbnails will come up. You go, right, okay, I'm not keen on that one. That's the one I'm looking for. You click on that one, and it takes you through. That then will give that piece of content an impression click-through. And it's just the impression click-through rate. How many people are seeing it compared to how many people are clicking through? So 1,000 people have seen your thumbnail, but 100 people have clicked through. Therefore, you have a 10% impression click-through rate. Generally, a good click-through rate, anything from about 2% upwards, is actually quite good. So don't get disheartened if you've got a really low click-through rate. If you've got a really high click-through rate, awesome, you're onto a bit of a winner. And yeah, just keep making content like that with the same thumbnails. Use that kind of thumbnail over and over and over again. And just remember that obviously, if they're only watching for 3 seconds, there's a very good chance that you've been clickbaiting using your thumbnails or clickbaiting with your title and pissing people off, so they won't actually watch all of your content. So make sure that your thumbnail and your title actually says what it is on the tin. Otherwise, people are likely to step away and just go, yeah, your content's crap, leave you and not watch any more of it. But that's essentially what it means. Impressions, click-through rate. I've seen your content, I've clicked through, I've watched it, and how many people, the click-through rate of how many people see your thumbnail to how many people click through and actually watch the content. Okay. Wow. 30 minutes, done again, done and dusted. I think that's been another value-driven piece of content. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you've enjoyed it. You've got some value out of it. If you have done, please do hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're on at the moment. And if you've already subscribed or you've maybe just hit the subscribe button, how about you also share this piece of content as well? Let more people know about the value that I'm putting out every single day. That would be so cool. I don't ask anything else from you. I don't ask you to buy what I do or anything like that. But if you could just hit that share button, it would be incredible. Let's grow the audience. Let's get more questions in from more different people so that we can really build up more of a community and get some really cool questions coming in. Maybe get more people on the broadcast as well, get more people involved, joining in and asking their questions live. But anyway, until tomorrow, thank you ever so much for watching. As always, it's been a pleasure answering your questions. And I will see you tomorrow. If you're in the UK, don't forget, 8 o'clock, out on your garden lawn or whatever, front door or balcony like we do, and rattle those pots and pans, clap your hands for all the key workers who are still working so hard during these very, very weird situations that we're all currently in. Anyway, until tomorrow, thanks a lot and have a good one. Bye.